Kingsnorth of Gullion Media. How are you, sir?
Doing grand, thank
you very,
you
very
much,
good
Ryan.
morning to you. We're just musing that we need to put the final dots and crosses on my book, Caritas et Amor, in the Footsteps of Love, the story of Africa. And some of the things, we had an explosion this week in Kontagora,
Right.
which is very close to where we are.
Okay.
And I had a phone call yesterday from Father Donald Cahan,
Yeah.
and George knows these names because he's been putting the book together. He's been producing the book, and a lovely, lovely, lovely pictorial work it is. So our hearts are a wee bit in our mouths at the moment, George.
Yes, yes.
And it's all okay. It'll be fine. But you just have to leave it in the hands of whatever deity there is. How have you been? Busy?
Busy. We're working on the second course, the editing
Tell
course.
the people about the course, first of all. It's a little while since we've talked about it.
Yeah.
What exactly is it?
Okay, well, the endeavour is to produce a comprehensive course on filmmaking, digital filmmaking. So the first course was on developing ideas, producing a script, storyboarding, and producing animatic.
And that's done and dusted.
That's done and dusted. That's available now on Udemy at the moment.
Udemy.
Udemy. The second module is to be about pre-production, but I'm as a non-linear editor, I'm skipping that one, and I've gone to module 7, and I'm working on the editing one. And the reason for that is, when I used to teach students in the local college, I found that if they understood what the editing process was all about, the purpose of editing, they understood then what they needed to go out and film on their shoots. But without that, there was no sense of, well, why am I doing a shoot? What am I trying to achieve? And the other thing is that I've started to record the process that I go through when I edit a little piece of drama. So I'm doing a scene from Monty's Quest.
Monty's Quest is?
Monty's Quest, well, it's actually going to be called The Quest of Montgomery Aloysius. It's a film that I started in 2009 with some of my students in the college. It's about a guy who has given a book and he has to read it to save the world, but can he read it? That's the problem he's got. It's about responsibilities and waking up to the responsibilities that you may have, and whether you can take that responsibility and carry out the action. So it's an important little story, but it's a very experimental film. But it's also given me an opportunity to take scenes from it to demonstrate some of the processes of filmmaking to prospective students.
I have seen your animatics. My goodness, very impressive, George Kingsnorth.
But they can be very frustrating.
Very time-consuming.
Time-consuming is the biggest problem. Because
is it right that you're in digital era that you're actually moving things just almost frame by frame by frame?
No, not in the way that the traditional animator might have done, who would have had to draw every single frame. In the 2D packages and the 3D packages, you basically set the key frames and the computer works out the rest.
It does the rest.
So that can speed things up quite a bit.
Yeah. I'm going to frighten people out there, because I remember in my lifetime, now I'm going back 20 years, 32 years, and 8 years before that, 32 takes 40 years ago when I was in RTE in the newsroom, we would, on a daily basis, we would generate our graphics.
Yes.
Now the graphics were generated by an artist in a room on an easel at the bottom of the corridor, and he would cut maps out of atlases and he'd put it up, and it was all done by hand and drawing and all of that, you know.
Well, the interesting thing is that although the computer does actually speed up a fair amount of the process, there's still a lot of effort has to go in. So when you're designing, part of the course, the first course, the pre-production, the development course, I actually demonstrate using Photoshop, but I'm actually using a tablet and a little stylus, and actually hand drawing images, and then take them into packages like Premiere and After Effects to create little animations with them. But it still takes the time. You're still trying to get them done as quickly as possible, and it just seems as though there's no time to do anything.
You see, one of the time is of the essence. Who has it said that? But one of the great disadvantages of my working life as a journalist and going out to do either a hard news story are going out to do, say, a nationwide piece,
Yeah.
you were aware of a number of things, and maybe you can guide me on this. I was certainly aware that I was operating in an absolutely solid and immovable time frame.
Yes.
That I had to start filming at A and finish editing by B.
Yeah.
And when I say I had an editor working with me, I had a cameraman always working with me. Nowadays it's not necessarily like that.
No.
The journalist is out doing his own thing and doing his own edit. But my disadvantage was, although I was hugely effective, hugely proficient at getting the stories done,
Yeah.
I was, on the basis of what I knew about the story in advance, I had the script done already in my head.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, that gets you over the time barriers. You're there, you'll meet your deadline. But if you're not careful, it can exclude areas of your creativity.
Yes.
You're not open to something different coming at you.
Absolutely.
And you have to be aware of that.
I think one of the biggest problems that I've kind of recognised within myself is that I'm now doing more of the work myself as well. So I'm thinking very much the way that you would. You have to, because you're trying to meet those deadlines, that whether they're perceived deadlines or actual deadlines. There have been projects where it's been very certain that there's a deadline. And when you're told there's a deadline and you have to get something done by a certain time, you say, right, if I expend this amount of energy, I can achieve that by that time, and I should be fine. The problem is when you're getting close to that moment where you know the deadline needs to be finished, you've almost got it there, and you know that once you've gone beyond that deadline that you should be able to relax and recuperate. I've had times when producers have actually said, we've extended the deadline, and I'm kind of going, where am I going to find the extra energies now?
It's a false dawn.
It is.
It's no benefit. It's no gift to you.
No.
Because you've got to crank yourself back up again.
Well, you've got to find energies where you don't know where the resources are going to come from.
Because you put so much into it.
Absolutely.
You know.
So again, that is a problem, that sometimes those what appear to be immovable deadlines suddenly do move. And it's very hard to find the energies to do that. One of the biggest problems that you do have, though, is if you are working on your own, like you were saying, you've got the script in your head, you know what, so in a way you don't need to do the paperwork, you don't need to do all the extra bits and pieces that you would normally do. But the problem then becomes is that you're not communicating your ideas to other people who may see things from a different perspective and give you a more clearer vision.
You see, I was very lucky all my life, and I'm thinking the traditional, and I'm the traditional, and I'll tell you what I mean by that in a second. And I'm also thinking of the new age young fellows and girls coming through the Southern Regional College or somewhere else, and independence is ground into them. Do it yourself. You know, they're able to use the camera, they're able to use the tape recorder, they're able to stand on their head and whistle Dixie. But what they don't have is what I and others like me, all our professional, and you too, for goodness sake, all our professional lives, they do not have that sitting down at the left-hand side of an editor. I'm there at a Steenbeck. We're seeing the 2 rolls of 16mm flowing round. It's been cut with a blade and stuck with sellotape. And I'm saying to Ray Allen, Ray, how does that look to you? Will that work? I have a sounding board. And Ray has a sounding board.
Absolutely.
And it becomes natural that you're thinking together and you're working together. But that breeds professional togetherness and program excellence. The other way is completely predicated upon one person's view, one person's vision. And very often that transmits into one person's arrogance. I know it because I have the certificate, you know.
It is difficult, and especially when you want to work within a team environment, which I know I've always enjoyed. When you're forced by the current sort of constraints of budgets to work on your own, even trying to motivate yourself can be very difficult, because if you're constantly doing that, you then can start to question whether your stories are any good. you can actually have the opposite effect.
Yes.
And I think it's now some people that they maybe don't even think that much, and that could be a worry, because is the stuff that they're producing really of any substance, which is where you maybe have that kind of arrogant idea. But if you are trying to do something that has some kind of meaning, you need to test it out on an audience. Now, the one good thing about all the courses that the students do at SRC, Southern Regional College, is that they are told to think of their target audience. Quite often they kind of don't get that right. They don't think, who is my target audience? And they scattergun, thinking everybody. But there's a reason behind the story that they're coming up with. And so there is a target audience that they're aiming for. And they are asked to research that target audience and find out why they would be interested in the story they're doing. So that they're being encouraged to do that through the courses they're doing, which I think, especially the pre-production techniques course that is run at level 3 and within the HND courses. They're very important, because if you want to show your work even on YouTube, which everybody has access to, and you want that to generate an income, which it can do because you can monetize your video, you have to know where to get the paperwork to show YouTube that you own the rights to every little thing that's in that. The interesting thing about that is that I don't have the paperwork for the Saga Pearl 2.
Oh yes, we did.
We got everybody's agreement.
Yeah.
But YouTube want me to prove that I have the rights to monetize that particular film, and because we don't have bits of paper to prove it, I can't generate an income from that. So again, what that's demonstrating to me is the importance of some of the things that are on the course that the students are doing.
Things been signed up and signed off at the beginning. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, with Monty's Quest and with Fiddler's Walk. Fiddler's Walk was a film I made in 2006, again with some of the students from the college. We produced little contracts that if the film was to make any income, they would get a percentage based on their contribution, which was possibly about 3 days' work. And that meant that I could actually go to the likes of YouTube with all the documentation. They could say, yes, you own the rights to monetize that, and then it would be my job to make sure that everybody got something from that.
Let me take you just briefly to the other arm of your operation, your publishing house, Gullion Media. And I've been working with you for a year now on putting my book together, Caritas et Amor, and you can still see the promo, George's promo on YouTube, Caritas et Amor promo, and it's there. And it's the story of the Irish missionary effort in Africa and India. In the modern era. Now, I approached that as a reporter, just telling the story as I saw it. And your task was, and again, it was a collaborative effort. We discussed it and we put it together, and we designed the pages, and you suggested, I suggested, and it flowered, We're almost there with it. Have we got a product?
I think we do have a really good product. It's a very, I mean, one of the things I always found from editing, regardless of what the editing was, the knowledge that you gained from the experience of going through that kind of process. And by having the likes of another author who's like yourself, who's got all the experience that you have, and the way that you wrote the story gave me an insight to another way of doing things that I could actually use in some future projects. So that is another reason why the idea of collaboration is so important. Now, one of the things that we did think initially, and you've mentioned this before, was we thought we had a deadline that was a kind of self-imposed deadline that meant we would have actually rushed through the process. And then we began to realize, actually, this needs to breathe. It needs to have its own time. And it shouldn't be rushed. It needed that time to just ferment, like a good wine.
Yes.
And so by slowing the process down deliberately, I think we've allowed it more breathing space, and it's been able to develop in its own course. And again, I think that's something that is so important that students of any medium should actually have the experience of, and not to feel they have to rush everything, because if you rush things, you end up with sloppy work, you end up with things not being right, And you know, if you want people to see the work that you're doing, you want it to be as good as possible, because you're putting yourself into a vulnerable position. You're exposing yourself.
Oh, absolutely, totally.
You know,
here I am. This is the best
yeah.
I can do.
Yeah, and you're showing your inner self.
Yeah.
To people.
And your neck is out there, and the guillotine is almost there.
And people can be cruel.
Yeah. Hold a second. Hold that thought, because Andrew has just indicated to me we go for a break.
Destination Newry. Keep it on. We're back in moments.
So, you want local Newry and Mourne TV shows on your television? Which video box should you buy? Well, you have two options. Option 1 provides you as long as you have a good internet connection in your home, with all the programmes from destinationnewry.com, including
inside the fencing when we were up there. That's such a change. And the dog muck.
Destination Newry.
Radio evolved.
Hello, your weather for today and tomorrow with Destination Newry. Today.
First, this is Newry News Bite.
Well, what's cracked in Newry and Mourne today? We all had a great September weather-wise.
We're going to go straight into today's show with a lively set of tunes from a band called Sun.
Well, good morning. Welcome to Destination Newry.
Tell me the provenance of that. Where did it come from?
Right there, and welcome back to the studio.
Good afternoon and welcome along to Destination Wellbeing. My guest is... Hi everyone and welcome to this week's Newry's Loose Women with me.
Well, it's hello and welcome once again to the programme. My name is Tommy Sands.
And the courts of the house of our God. Praise the Lord.
Philip Rogan, rather, wearing number 19.
Evening, everybody, and you're very welcome to Newry Showgrounds tonight again.
So that's option 1, and to choose this, click on option 1 below, or you can go to vario.ie and buy option 1. Option 2 provides you, as long as you have a good internet connection in your home, everything you get for option 1, including all the programmes from destinationnewry.com. Plus, you will be able to add over 1,000 private or public channels at the touch of a button, most of which are free. So that's option 2. To buy, click below and buy option 2, or go to vario.ie and buy option 2. To choose your option, either option 1 or 2, just click on the buttons below, or you can go to vario.ie and click on option 1 or 2. When we receive your payment, we will deliver your box to your home, and all you need to do is plug it in and connect it to your TV and your internet. Any problems, we're here on standby to help.
Destination. You've reached your destination. Go!
Yes, it's Destination Newry. It is the morning programme. I'm Rowan Hand. The joy, the pleasure, the privilege of being your host. And with me, George Kingsnorth from Gullion Media. And George, it's always a joy when one knows someone from our own locality creates a product and pushes us out across the world. We do it here with Destination Newry, and we take a great pride in doing that. It's never ever happened before. But what you're doing as well is similarly in that genre. You're creating filmatic courses which are digitally led, and you're sending them out when Australia opens tomorrow or this morning, whenever they open after us, there'll be a whole tranche of people coming online and saying, look, get us into this.
Absolutely.
It's a great idea, and it's working for you.
It's starting, it's embryonic, it's something I've been wanting to do for a few years now, because understanding how important video is for teaching people. Believe it or not, you don't learn any more from a video than you would do if you were in a classroom or if you were reading a book. There's no...
But you can rewind.
But you can rewind.
This is a good thing.
Well,
that's the
a good
principle that
thing.
Harold Wilson thought about when he decided he was going to found the Open University in another age.
And I'm a product of that.
Are you indeed?
I'm a product of the Open University.
For goodness sake.
I have a degree with the Open University
Yeah.
and a postgraduate certificate from the Open University.
Yeah. Look, it works.
It does.
And the rewinding
The
is there.
The key thing to all forms of education is that you have to be motivated to learn, and you then have to put into practice what you're learning, and then you have to reflect on the piece of work you've produced, and that generates the motivation to learn further. So it becomes a 360-degree cycle of that learning it's an engine.
Yeah.
Almost, So you got the motivation, put into practice, reflection, and that drives it forward again. So it's just constantly fueling that.
How do people gain access to your work, to your courses?
At the moment, they can go to the utree.tv, which is youtree.tv website, and there's a link there that will take them to the Udemy course.
Yeah.
They can also find it at the gullionmedia.co.uk website.
So those are the two, and I want us just to go over those again because I want people to know where to look and to get involved. It's utree.tv.
.tv.
utree.tv, and it's YOUTREE, as in the branches.
Yep.
utree.tv.
And we have a little slogan, which is U, technology, research, education, and entertainment. That's where the U-tree then comes into play.
A wee bit of research, technology, entertainment. The old BBC thing was to inform, educate, and to entertain.
Absolutely.
We remember that so well.
We
George.
do.
Shall we share with people that 25 years ago we may have been sitting together at either ends of corridors within Broadcasting House in Belfast?
We were there,
and
definitely.
doing things, absolutely. So where does it go from here now? You're into the editing module now.
We're doing the editing. There's around about 8 modules altogether, and the first one is on developing ideas through to producing an animatic. The second one is on the pre-production techniques, looking for your audience, working out your budgets, preparing schedules for a shoot. We're going to be doing one on camera technologies, sound production, 3D animation, working with actors. There'll probably be one on the actual process of production, because we don't often see that. We get told how it's done, but we don't actually see it, and I want to show how it's done.
I noticed when you were making the mini documentary on my book, and that's you can still see it on YouTube, Caritas et Amor promo. When you were doing that, it was everything you did was understated. It was quiet. There was no rush, although it was done within 2 hours.
Yes.
But it was gentle. You could hear the birds breathing out in Drummondtine.
Well, one of the nice things about editing material that I've shot and showing the audience that the process from behind the camera, as in you're seeing it through the camera, you do get to see how relaxed the atmosphere on the sets were. I believe that if you can make everybody feel that they're having fun, there's still discipline. We still know what we have to achieve within the period of time that we've got to film. So there's a really tight schedule. But if you can do it in such a way that people are relaxed, one of the things that we found on Monty's Quest was that we were finishing really early because people were motivated. It's that same process again. If you motivate people in the right way, and they begin to enjoy and feel as though they're part of the process, then you actually get a lot out of them. We had an actress on one of my earlier films who enjoyed the process so much, then went on to another film, a horror film, where they hadn't worked out the schedules. She was working from early in the morning to about 11 o'clock at night. She felt very frustrated and actually gave off to the producer because they hadn't planned what they were doing and the environment didn't feel very friendly.
Yes.
So again, you can get so much out of people by treating them fairly, by not making them feel as though they're being exploited, allowing them to give within the creative process, that collaboration that we were talking about a short time ago. They feel as though they own the product as well as you as the producer, and that you're working collaboratively together with one another as opposed to for a producer. And I think that's where that kind of creative spirit is important.
I see this, and it emphasizes what you're saying. I see this in my nationwide work, which I'm slightly withdrawing from now that I'm growing older and very much involved here.
Yeah.
This is near enough 24/7, for goodness sake.
Yes.
It's a constant in my life. But in going out to shoot something, you've prepared it well.
Mm-hmm.
You know the people you're going to talk to because you've spoken to them on the telephone at least, and you've developed that kind of friendship's too strong a word, but there's a good rapport there. And you know that when you go, you're not going to offend anyone. We went to do a lovely little piece with the Rug House here in Newry not so very, very long ago. And we shot the piece in 40 minutes.
Yes.
Because we went in, bing, 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 bang.
Yeah.
And we did it politely, we did it pleasantly, but we knew what we wanted, and it was done and dusted and finished with. That's a discipline that folk who are involved in our business need to take on board, need to be aware of, you know.
The importance of preparation, without really, really good, strong preparation, people get frustrated because on the one hand, even the actors that are sitting in front of the camera, we mentioned this about your book, that once you present yourself to an audience, and everybody's an audience, you're exposing your inner self. You're putting yourself in a position where you could be criticized. And one of the things I've realized through teaching, through training, especially about 20 years ago, I taught some students some graphics, and during a lunch period, these kids had all kinds of issues. But during a lunch period, someone came and destroyed a piece of work that one of these girls had actually produced. She was actually pregnant at the time, so she was very sort of emotional. And as I realized how much effort she'd put into creating that piece, I actually reproduced the artwork for her. So when she came in, she couldn't tell the difference.
Wow.
Okay. Now some of the students were aware of this, but they didn't say anything. And they asked me, why did you do that? I said, because if she didn't come back to find her work, she'd have been destroyed.
Yeah.
It would have been emotionally more, she would have totally withdrawn, and she would have just bottled up and no, I'm not.
Yeah.
So you have to appreciate the people around you and nurture them.
Nurture them indeed, and it's an appreciation of vulnerability.
Yes.
And equally, there is the need for reciprocity.
Yeah.
That where the producer, the presenter, the director.
Yeah.
That no one is standing above the other.
Absolutely.
And that it's nothing personal.
Yeah.
There is one priority, and the priority is the program.
Is the program. And I think that's the important thing, is that once you realize it's not about you and it's not about your ego, it's about making sure you've got a really good product that an audience will want to watch. And that's where you build up an audience and potentially the revenue to pay for you to be able to do another project. At the end of the day, that's what you're trying to achieve.
Of course, payment is the other area, and we'll talk about it next week when we come together again, because people, the number of people that will say to you, what's it going to cost? And you say, you give them a figure of £15,000 and they have to pick themselves up off the ground.
Yes.
They think it can be done for £800.
Absolutely.
This doesn't work.
It doesn't, no.
This is a highly skilled, a highly professional bit of business we're involved in.
And the problem is, the more you try to cut that back, the more... I mean, at the end of the day, we all have to work and we all have to live. If we're working on a project, and I've heard this recently at a BAFTA forum, where a director had an office but couldn't afford to pay for that office, so had to keep downsizing. It almost got to the point where they couldn't function as a person trying to finish their product. So, if you're having to go to those extremes and you're not generating the income, there does come a point where you have to question whether it's actually possible to continue.
Absolutely.
Now, I've been fortunate that somehow I've managed to keep on going.
Yes.
But those are questions that are always at the back of your head.
Absolutely. But you're going because you're reinventing, and this is leading you forward.
Absolutely.
George, we'll talk again next week.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank you. This is George Kingsnorth of Gullion Media. You find him on the old magic box of tricks. You can be Googleized.
You can Googleize, yeah. Googleize my name and you'll find me all over the place.
Googleize in there. George Kingsnorth. It is a unique name. Thank you for coming in, George. I'm
Thanks,
Rowan, and this is Destination Newry.
Destination Newry. Keep it on. We're